Good evening, everyone. Consciousness is something that a lot of people are talking about these days. For centuries, philosophers have said that there's something intangible to consciousness, that there's a spirit or soul outside of ourselves that exists inside of our bodies, and that scientists today point to something more physical, tangible. They say that neurons are firing in perfect harmony within our skulls that allows us to think and be and feel. But maybe there's something beyond that. Maybe there's something metaphysical happening, or we could just all be a happy accident. Either way, it sounds pretty spooky to me. I'd like to hear your thoughts tonight on a very special, spooky episode of Truth Wanted, because the show is starting right now. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Halloween episode of 2024. Truth Wanted. What's up? I am spookjectively Dawn, I guess. Tonight is my costume. I'm joined by my co-host, Sister Mary Infidel 64, and Jamie the Blahaj Limey. There he is. Face isn't completely eaten up by sharks. Folks, how are we doing tonight?
Oh, feeling pretty all right. Although, why did you drag me all the way out to the middle of the woods, insisting I come in costume?
And here's the bad thing. I should have worn a Bigfoot costume tonight just so I could blend in with the rest of you guys. But unfortunately, the ACA already spent all their budget getting the helicopter to drop all the supplies out for us tonight. So we are trying to find ghosts tonight, I think. Or was it a chupacabra or something? I can't remember. Do you remember what Vern was saying?
Basically, they said, turn up to the library, make sure you're a bit early. Then they put a bag over my head. And then I woke up here.
Oh, yeah, that was just for you. They didn't do that for me.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
I just came for the marshmallows.
Oh.
So I heard there's going to be marshmallows, and so I said, all right, I'm in.
Yeah, we got a nice fire going here. I think maybe you guys can hear it with the audio setup. You got to give it to our crew who really helped set up like a really good outside, audio settings here. It's not easy to do it in the middle of the woods, as you can see here. We're kind of downstream of
Pretty remote.
Barton Creek, I think, here in Austin. I think there's some great wildlife around us. So I think tonight's going to be a good show. We do have a remote satellite internet connection here, so we are going to be able to get your calls tonight. So if you haven't already, you should definitely call the show. The number is below, 512-991-9242, or you can visit at tiny.cc/calltw. And of course, Truth Wanted is a product of the Atheist Community of Austin, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the promotion of atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism, and the separation of religion and government. We want to talk to you about what you believe and why. It doesn't have to be about ghosts, can be anything that we usually talk about. But it's our Halloween episode today, so a spooky theme is appreciated if you can. We always appreciate the content. I don't know, it's such a beautiful night out. You can see, I don't know if the cameras can pick up on the beautiful stars that we have here. We had a wide shot. Did we do a wide shot already of our setup here in the middle of the woods? Where's our tent at, actually? I don't even know.
I don't know. I mean, I guess we might be roughing it, bivouacking, just under the stars.
Yeah, I guess
Community
so.
nature, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm personally, I think I've told this before, I'm an Eagle Scout. I love being out here in the woods. But, there is something a little spooky being out here around the time of Halloween, right? Something in the air. I think what would be a great idea, guys? I think we should tell some scary stories.
Okay.
You got any scary stories?
We got the campfire, so
I think so too.
I think we're ready. You got one?
Well, I think we should do our bits that we usually do on the show before we get to that first, because we do have a segment every week called our We Want the Truth segment, which we answer, we give you guys a prompt, right? And you guys give us your best answers in the comment below. So I want to read some of that from last week. Last week we did ask you, what is something that doesn't sound creepy but is? And here were our favorite answers for that. Number 3 comes from Pernalison, who said, what is something that doesn't sound creepy but is? Are you home alone? I just think that sounds creepy.
I'm home alone too, lost in New York.
Yeah, it doesn't bring good vibes, I think. I guess maybe if it's like romantic, right? Otherwise,
I don't know. Even if it's from a party. Are you home alone?
Oh yeah, it's not good.
Yeah.
It's not good. A number 2 answer comes from Jason Techlord, who says, "What is something that doesn't sound creepy but is? Welcome to my kid's gender reveal party." Yeah, that's true. I've never actually been to one of those. Have you ever been to one of those?
No, it's not really. I'm from a far more reserved part of the world. So
Oh, yeah,
like
sure.
Exploding cakes and flyovers of F-18s and whatever the heck else you get done for your gender reveals just don't happen.
What about you? Have you ever been?
I have to say, I don't get invited to too many gender reveal parties.
Yeah.
Not sure what that's about.
I don't-
Maybe my charming personality.
Yeah, probably so.
Who knows?
I think so. Maybe it's the fact that you're dressed up like a Silent Hill villain right now, too.
Oh,
I think that's...
Oh, you thought I was in costume?
Oh, okay. Well,
Sorry.
we should move
Sorry.
on from that, I think. Number 1, though, comes from Miranda Rensberger, who says, something that doesn't sound creepy but is the Tooth Fairy. We will tell small children a fun, whimsical story about a supernatural entity who collects human teeth from underneath your pillow while you sleep. Sweet dreams.
Do you value your teeth? Because I guarantee I know someone who does more.
Yeah, you know, what? So, like, you know, I get Christmas and I get, like, Easter Bunny, like, you know, obviously comes from, like, Easter originally, right? What's up with the Tooth Fairy? Did we just, like, come up with that collectively as a society and just thought that was okay? Like, how did that work?
I mean, there are reasons behind it, like, oh, let's just make this inevitably painful thing less unpleasant for our kids through basically bribery.
I guess it was
Yeah.
kind of bribery, right? That's just...
It would work.
Yeah, I think so. Well, thank you guys for your answers for that great question. The prompt this week is going to be, what is it that makes aliens want to leave the Earth immediately? Which I think is an awesome prompt here. You guys, any ideas? What's going to make the aliens leave immediately? Yeah, I think if we want to repel them, that's a
If
good...
I have to have that song in my head, you now have to have that song in your head.
Honest-
You're welcome.
I just think we need to play them like a 24-hour clip of the American news cycle. You know, I think that's enough.
Everything's terrible all of the time.
Right.
Buy catheters.
Yeah, I think so. What about you, Infinite?
Well, I think that you pretty much hit on what my problem with this whole segment is, that I couldn't find any reasons why they'd want to come here.
Right.
And
Yeah.
maybe it's because I have watched the 24-hour news cycle and
Yeah.
to know, you know what, put your windows up, lock the doors, speed right on by. Don't even slow down.
I think so. Well, leave your comment below and tell us what is it that's going to make aliens want to leave Earth immediately, and we will read your answers next week. But for now, folks, we should just get this fire going. I think and get these, you know, marshmallows
I was never
cooking.
very good at this.
I feel like I've had this on the fire for a while now.
Yeah.
It hasn't really done a whole lot for me.
You know what? Maybe it's like other things. You know, you just hit it a few times.
Yeah.
Works with other things, right?
Well, maybe while we're cooking these here, I think we should start with a scary story. What do you guys think? Yeah?
I agree.
I'm down.
Yep. Okay. All right. Well, I think you want to start with one, Jamie?
Oh, I think I might have one.
Okay. You got a flashlight there? You can... Ooh, look at that.
Ooh.
Oh, very spooky.
The story's not too far from here, just south of San Antonio. Near the San Juan Mission, there is an intersection on Villamay and Shane where there is a railway crossing. A railway crossing that the locals swear is haunted. The story begins in 1938, a dark December night, and a school bus with 30 children on board, driven, as they say, by a nun from a local Catholic school, returning from a field trip, heading towards tragedy. The bus, unfortunately, stalls on those train tracks, and unbeknownst to the driver, a train is oncoming. Tragedy upon tragedy, its headlamp is burned out, and the driver is none the wiser to the obstacle in front of him, and even if he was, could not stop in time. Too late, she realizes the oncoming danger, and with the spare moment she has, evacuates as many children as she can, slumbering as they are in the back of the bus. But many do not make it. More than 20 tiny lives snuffed out in that tragedy. And to this day, they say that the souls of those children haunt those train tracks. Don't believe me? Well, you can go there yourself. Park your car next to those tracks and put it in neutral, and then try not to get too scared when it starts to roll uphill. propelled, they say, by the scores of tiny hands pushing at the back of the car. Now, are they malevolent? Do they wish for you to share their fate? Or are, as the locals say, they trying to prevent more tragedies from happening in that fated, awful place? Is it coincidence? Superstition? Malevolent spirits? Or tragically lost souls turned guardian angels? I leave that for you to decide, and decide what the truth is. Sleep well.
Oh my God, that was so spooky. I don't even know. How did you get your voice to do that, by the way, JB? Oh, hey, Infidel, I think your marshmallow's on fire a little bit there. We gotta make sure you watch for that.
I've had a bit of a cold.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, that was spooky, man. I gotta say the spookiest part about San Antonio, I think, is the traffic overall. Right, that's been my experience. But wow, great tale. Maybe we'll have some other tales ready for us. Oh, hey, there's your marshmallow. I think it's ready now. Wow.
Oh, it's nice and crispy, just like hell.
Yeah, look at that.
This is awesome.
Yeah, you might want to put that on a cracker there. But anyway, well, like I said, we'll get to some more stories, I think, in a bit here. But I'm having a grand old time with you guys out here in the woods. But you know what would make it better, I think, is if we talk to some callers. What do you guys think? Yeah?
I think that's a great idea.
They got the remote satellite.
We got the remote satellite. I think I don't know if it's Starlink or...
No expense spared. We should make use of it.
Yeah,
right,
absolutely. Yeah, we are paying, I think, like $300 a minute with that service. So we gotta make something.
Talk fast.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But before we get to the calls tonight, folks, we always give a special shout out to our patron of the week. Every single week, I'm always giving a shout out to the folks who donate on the Patreon. And this week's patron of the week for the spooky Halloween episode of 2024 is Katie Stewart. Thanks so much, Katie Stewart. And shout outs to Katie, who is not here tonight, who is enjoying themselves and living large. So thank you, Katie, for that. And thank you, of course, to everybody who donates to the show. You guys are amazing. And with that, let's go ahead and talk to our first caller. Let's get to Steve, who is talking to us from Nebraska. Steve, you are live in the woods in Austin, Texas on Truth Wanted. How's it going, Steve?
Yeah, hi, Dan, Jamie, and Sister Mary. Happy weekend, everybody. Thanks for taking my call. And I was calling to discuss a message in genetic coding which expresses the equation of an Egyptian triangle when factoring out 37 from the structural, componential atomic masses belonging to bioessential amino acids that are sufficiently defined by their codon's first and second base nucleotides.
Yeah,
this artificial.
I'm always saying this, by the way. I'm all about this, Steve. Yeah, 100%. Anyway, keep going. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Okay, no problem. So I was just going to say that this alien signal in genetic coding proves life was sent to Earth by aliens. Okay. And I just wanted you guys to know that you don't have to sport any Halloween costumes. Just go as yourselves, and you can just say you are the spawn of aliens.
Okay. I just want to point out that you are not a prank caller. You are being 100% serious with us right now, right?
This is a serious paper that was published in a scientific journal, Icarus, 10 years ago, and it was published by two scientists, Maxim Makakov and Vladimir Sherbak, and their research was published under the title "Wow Signal of the Terrestrial Genetic Code." So it's totally 100% legit.
Can I just interrupt you there for a second, Steve? Because there's a couple of things I'd like to say, a couple of things I would hope that the direction of this call would go. Firstly, I'm a layman when it comes to things like genetics. If you are compelled by this, one of the things I find wonderful about people who really get behind an idea is that they want to be able to convey it to other people.
Oh, Jamie, I have to apologize. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I'm not hearing you very well. You're just barely audible. I don't know if it's my phone or...
Maybe, Jamie, you should speak up. Sorry, it's our satellite internet service out here in the woods. I don't know how good we're taking.
Okay, I'll try and speak.
I can hear Dan. I hear Dan pretty well, but I couldn't hear Jamie.
Okay.
Let me try and enunciate a little more then.
That's better.
Okay.
Maybe that'll work.
All right.
So, the people I very much admire, and we have some who are guest hosts for us, who are science educators, are able to take complex concepts that they truly believe in and put them into layman's terms for those of us that don't understand. And I will tell you straight up, Steve, I had no bloody clue about anything you just said. So would you be able to maybe put it into concepts that I might understand?
Okay, sure. So how this message was found was based on the fact that these bioessential amino acids can be the ones that can be defined by the composition of their codons first and second base nucleotides. And what those are is nucleotides is just like in the genetic code. You have the nucleotides represented by the letters A, G, T. So the ones that can be defined according to what their first, second, and regardless of what their third nucleotide was. When you group those together and you take their core components, they have atomic mass basically of 73, or in contrast. Well, there's one exception, and that was proline that has 74. And then what they did with that is they to unlock the signal, the scientists transferred a hydrogen atom from proline's side chain to its core component. So then they had they standardized their atomic masses at 74 for each of the four I mentioned conical amino acids core structures. And then when you take the atomic masses of these side chains of these amino acids, it's 333, which is 37 times 3 squared. The sum of their block code, their core structure atomic mass is 592, which is 37 times 4 squared. And when you take the total atomic mass, it's 925, which is 37 times 5 squared. You take out 37, you get 3 squared plus 4 squared equals 5 squared. And that, of course, represents an Egyptian triangle. And the reconfigured proline, having a standardized core structure at atomic mass of 74, has no known natural occurring function, albeit may serve as a decoder, initializing with 37 being a comic divisor for the formulation of recognizable mathematical patterns conveying the message of an Egyptian triangle embedded in our genetic code.
Okay, so
I got the paper up, by the way.
Okay.
I've been reading it this entire time. It's very interesting here. It is published by the journal Icarus, and it is called "The Wow Signal of the Terrestrial Genetic Code" by Vladimir I. Sherbak. It is a paper from Kazakhstan.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very it's a thing, and it has been cited 13 times, so it's a real paper. I'm trying to read through all of this, and I'm going to be honest. This is above my pay grade. If Forrest Valkai was on here, I'm sure we could have a great discussion on it. But I am not seeing some of the stuff that you're talking about here. And I do want to ask you about that, because I am seeing the stuff about, where we're talking about the atomic mass and the nucleons and stuff like that. I don't see anything about this relating to Egyptian, triangles and stuff.
It's in the paper actually, but you have to look. Oh gosh, I read that paper about 3 or 4 times. I can't remember where in there, but it's like what?
What do the? Okay, here we go. Egyptian. Actually, I did find it. Those messages also included symbols of arithmetical operations, Egyptian triangle DNA, and other notions of human consciousness. Okay, all right, okay. This is an interesting thing here that I just can't even make heads or tails of, to be honest with you.
My first instinct is, how can you demonstrate it's not coincidence?
Yes.
And it's just, why is it significant? I mean, I could easily say, yes, well, the nucleotides of the genetic genome often come up in the sequence of CAT. CAT, does that mean we are related to cats? It's like, no, it's just a coincidence.
Yeah, here's the thing. I'm not seeing, is this like an actual experiment that has been done? Because this just seems to be a summation of what other people's work is there. It's just...
I think that was a thought experiment when they did the transfer of the proline atom.
Okay.
I don't think they actually did that in the lab.
Yeah, this seems to me, and again, I'm reading this for the first time live on the air, that this is a summation of other people's work, scientific work, right? And sort of proposing a reason as to why we're seeing some of these observations in other people's work. And the hypothesis here is that there is some sort of intelligence signal in this genetic code, I guess.
Can I interject for a second here? Quick question here. What is it about this, though, that you find compelling to believe that aliens are somehow connected to this? Because, yes, we can take numbers and we can play all sorts of games. And I know that as humans, it's our natural tendency to do that sort of thing. And you know, all these things can be interesting. I've seen all sorts of things that say, well, this ties to this and this ties to that. But at the end of the day, where that rubber meets the road, where it really comes down to it, what compels you? Because like Dan, I don't see, and I'm not even going to pretend that I have the scientific background to know what this is definitively. But what is it that compels you? Presuming you're not an expert, are you an expert in this field?
I am not.
Okay, so what about somebody else says something happened and some people saw some things that look kind of cool and they saw some things repeat and they did these things over and over and they rinsed and tried it over again and they still ended up with this magic number of 37. How does that get you to aliens? I'm just a little curious because, look, I'm wide open to aliens existing, but, you know.
Okay. The research done was done by two astrophysicists.
Okay.
They're going to know a little bit more about this kind of stuff than me, of course.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my expertise in biology and physics is 1 year. You know, one college course. So these guys are going to know a heck of a lot more than me. So they think it's extraterrestrial in origin. And then number two, what convinces me, besides these expert scientists, is a symbol of a triangle. Egyptian triangle, that precise of a symbol does not naturally occur in nature. That's an artistic symbol.
And I understand that.
Nature would form. That's not a pattern found in nature.
And here's the thing. And if aliens existed, then we could have a discussion on, if we knew that aliens existed, we could have a discussion on whether this was caused by aliens. But we can't even demonstrate aliens existing. So if somebody's saying, hey, aliens caused this, well, couldn't it be something else? Could it be time travelers? Could it be 1,000 other things we could concoct in our head? Because we have nothing to say what did it. We could say, wow, that's cool. That's interesting. That's something maybe even worth exploring further. But that doesn't translate to, oh, well, look at the numbers, therefore aliens. That's where I'm having my disconnect.
And are you implying that they were put here by intelligent aliens on purpose?
No, so let me explain. I've read through most of this.
Yeah, I would say yes.
Let me help out here, okay? Here's the claim that's being made, right? That there is a specific sequence within our nucleotides, within our codons, that seem to imply that they are artificial in origin, that they aren't man, that they aren't natural, right? And here's one here: artificiality to be considered unambiguously as an intelligent signal. Any patterns in this code must satisfy two criteria. They must be highly significantly statistically, and not only must they possess intelligent-like features, but they must be inconsistent in principle with any natural process. Lamarckian evolution driven by amino acid biosynthesis and genomic changes. I guess so. I don't know how they can possibly come to this conclusion with their single fields of study, because this seems to be the result of like a very multidisciplinary form of research here. And I have not gotten to the point in the paper yet, and I don't have access to exactly the signal that they're even talking about. So again, this is like just a really hard thing for me to kind of tackle on a first time basis. But I will say this: if we were to discover that what we're seeing here in this nucleotide sequence, presumably this is in human beings, by the way. I don't see if the paper actually says if it's
it's all life forms.
Okay,
yeah,
they're saying in all life.
Yeah, all
That's
life.
interesting. So if we found a sequence that we couldn't explain through natural processes, and it seems to be the best explanation is something that's not natural. What about the explanation of just like maybe we don't understand this process yet? Like what about like, okay, there's some things here that like we can't fully account for, because there's definitely stuff in biology that we can't fully account for yet, right? And I don't necessarily
aliens of the gaps scenarios.
Yeah, like I to me, like I feel the same sort of wavelength with you guys, where it's like it's got to be more than just a paper that's going to convince me that it's aliens, I guess, right? I don't know. It has to be a little bit more than that. I don't know. But you seem very convinced by this, Steve. So give me your thought process there.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with the author's conclusion. It's not, critics are going to say, well, this is just numerology. They're just using clever tricks, manipulating numbers around and coming up with a pattern they're looking for. But I don't think it is that, because if extraterrestrial intelligence is going to communicate, they're going to use math. Math involves numbers. So of course you could.
Why
they're going to use it. Wait, hold on. They're going to use it in genetic sequences, though. That seems like a very not super efficient way to communicate things. Also, what are they communicating? I guess the fact that we are artificial, maybe.
Well, they're communicating a symbol and a number.
Okay.
Now I don't know what those mean. Do you guys know what a Egyptian triangle and a 37 would mean? What's the significance of those in the message? You guys have any clue what that would? Because I haven't figured that out. Maybe you guys might be able to.
I don't think that there is a thing there. Here's the problem with this too, right? Because like this has to go against everything we know about biological history, right? Like our entire ancestry, right? Like everything that we've come to know about the history of human beings and other biological species on Earth is that we're the result of naturalistic processes, right? Of evolutionary processes. And like we're going to be changing over time. I don't know that there is going to be a single sequence that's going to be found in all life that that this paper claims. Obviously this paper isn't doing that research, right? They aren't doing the look into this code. This is like summarizing the works of other people and making a speculation. These aren't geneticists that are coming to this conclusion. This is like a much more broader, multidisciplinary, kind of paper that I just think is more,
and this is the only compelling signal we've received from these so-called aliens. In lieu of anything more concrete, and also in the face of certain concepts like the Fermi paradox.
Yeah.
And the fact that faster than light travel and the mere existence of aliens intelligent enough to implant a signal of this type into our genetic code would have to have capabilities that would basically defy what we know of the laws of physics.
Yeah. It's not very good communication, too, again, if we already are like, what does this even mean? Like, we don't even know what the communication is there. I don't know, but...
Maybe it's a alien copyright notice that they trademarked.
That's awesome.
And that's really what we found.
Oh, my God.
We're all owned.
Infield, that's so brilliant. We have copyright in our system. It's like that's how they know that we can't be recreated from other alien species. That's how they prevent AI creation of aliens. Thing. Yeah. Damn. Oh man, that's awesome. I don't know, Steve. We're kind of shit talking here, but I don't know. Do you have any other thoughts about this? Because again, I think at the end of the day, this paper is not enough. I think if we're going to be talking about the significance of genetic sequences, I want to see it from geneticists, not astrobiologists. And I'm not even sure because I'm seeing endorsements from engineers here. I'm not even seeing the astrobiologists. I'll give you that. Maybe I'm not seeing it right, but I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, of course, more research is absolutely needed. So, yeah, I mean, that goes without saying.
Okay. Well, I'll leave it to you there, Steve. I think we have some other spooky topics that we can get to. Was there anything else that you wanted to add before we let you go?
You guys have a safe, happy Halloween this week, and vote. It's very important. I think that we all vote, and I'll talk to you guys again soon, hopefully.
All right, Steve. All right. I like that. Thanks so much for calling, and have a very spooky rest of your evening. What do you guys think of that?
Well, so much evidence to the contrary in terms of like, or if not evidence, just concepts that have to be overcome for alien visitation to be even possible, let alone plausible.
Well, I was more interested in it, and if Steve ever did have a break-in and found out the breakthrough about aliens, whether I could get on that alien abduction list, because at least it sounds like an entertaining trip.
Yeah. I mean, I was desperately trying to read as much as I possibly could while you guys were talking to Steve here, and I still don't get the point of this paper, because it's just one of those papers that is not doing like necessarily original experiments or anything, right? And that those kinds of papers are valuable in their own sense, right? Summarizing the works of other people, but
if you're doing a summation with what seems to be an obvious goal in mind, I mean, you can cherry pick data to fit whatever model you like.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just saying that, like, look, we could use genomic DNA to store information, and there's speculation that this has happened, I guess, but I don't know that I've seen the conclusion. Again, it's hard for me to read papers live on TV here. Okay, it's not really something.
You did well, man. I mean, you gave us a lot more.
I'm trying my best here, Steve. You gave me a really hard one to talk about here.
Well, he said you did your best. I was going to be quite critical and say, "Come on, you weren't prepared for this.
I guess
you weren't ready for this
I need
topic.
to be
Doesn't
more.
Everybody know this subject?
Hasn't everybody read Icarus, Volume 224, Issue 1? It's my favorite scientific volume.
Before every camp out. I mean, that's what. Marshmallows, bedrolls. And scientific papers.
219. Everything after 219 is overrated, in my opinion. It wasn't as good as the first couple hundred. Anyway, we should move on. Yeah. We're just having a good old time camping out here in the woods, and we want to take more of your calls. One thing I want to point out is that, hold on. If I actually get to the right page here, good thing I have this great internet connection out here in the woods. Okay, here we go. As some of you guys know, I should let you know that we have initiated phase 2 of our brick fundraiser, and we wanted to highlight some of these standout orders that we've received from that. And this week's featured bricks come from Jason from New Hampshire, that says, "Well, I believe you know," and that's it. So thank you for that. And if you want to donate and get your own brick at the Atheist Community of Austin Library, you can do it at tiny.cc/ACA bricks. I'm sure you guys seen the pictures there. That's a picture in the background there that's on screen. It is so cool seeing all of your guys' contributions. And just is really awesome that you get to literally help build the building. And also, if you're in the Austin area, you should follow us on Meetup to keep up with the community events. You can see what's going on at tiny.cc/ACA Meetup for that. And you should join our weekly watch parties at the Free Thought Library on Sundays for live viewings of Talk Heathen and the Atheist Community. That's every Sunday. We're doing live viewings for that. Doors open at 11. And it's a great place to just meet other people if you're around in Austin. Last but not least, I need to thank the wonderful, amazing crew that's helping make this show happen remotely way over in the building. I don't know, miles and miles away from us. I don't know if
It's a bit sus that they brought us all the way out here and then just buggered off and left us here. There's nothing suspicious going on, I hope.
No, I don't. Well, I did hear them talking shit about you the other day, actually. And then they talk shit about me, but that's like every week, so it's hard to see. I don't know if we can get a crew cam out here. I think that the signal's not good enough for that. But we want to thank the crew anyway. Thanks, crew, for streaming this live for us. And, of course, that includes audio operators, mods, note takers, and call screeners, which, if you want to volunteer for it, you absolutely can. For any of those positions, we're always looking for more volunteers. And with that, I think before we get to another call. Oh, actually, well, this call looks pretty interesting, though. You want to do another call and then a scary story?
Yeah, let's do a call, because the story I was going to tell you is about an Egyptian triangle hidden in our genetic code.
Oh, okay.
He ruined it for me.
Oh, okay. Well, that's unfortunate. Let's get to this other caller here, though. We do have someone named Halloween, who is calling in from the United States. Halloween, you're live on Truth Wanted. What's going on?
Greetings.
Hello, Halloween.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. What's going on?
Should I ask my question, or are we going to have a little conversation before you?
Yeah, we're here to answer any questions you have for us, so go ahead, ask away if you got one.
Are you saying that God does not exist? Are you saying that it is impossible to know whether God exists? Or are you unable to decipher the existence of God?
Yeah, if you could speak up next time when you talk, that'd be great, because you are a little muffled. But to answer your question, am I certain that God does not exist? It depends on what kind of God, right? Am I certain that all gods don't exist? Any kind of God? No, I don't think I can have that kind of certainty. It's definitely possible that there's a God that escapes all of my known senses, right? And it's just not going to be knowable to me. So sure, that's obviously going to be a possibility. But there are certain gods, like the Christian God, that have particular claims about them that I think we can sort of debunk. So if we're talking about like Yahweh in particular, yeah, I'm fairly certain that like Yahweh doesn't exist, right? Same thing with other kinds of gods that have particular features. What's that?
My fault. Why are you certain that Yahweh does not exist?
Well,
Triomny's pretty bad. Like, it just doesn't logically make sense.
Yeah, so it gets a little complicated because Christianity is a tradition that obviously is thousands of years old, specifically 2,000 years old, I guess, and longer than that if you include the Jewish tradition. So it's going to include lots of different thinkers who have lots of different ideas about what God is. And so it's hard to talk about different God concepts. But in general, as Jamie's mentioning, right, if we're talking about a God who is omniscient, omnipresent, who also cares about humanity and wants to be in our lives, as well as like the specific stories that are described in the Bible that involve God, there's definitely, I think, evidence that leads us to believe that those stories aren't reasonable to believe is true, as well as like the claims of like God's existence and what he can do for us, I think we can demonstrate like aren't true. So it does lead me to a higher than average confidence in terms of God claims that Yahweh, isn't on the list for real gods, right?
Do you believe that it's possible for a God with the knowledge of good and evil to exist?
For a God with the knowledge of good and evil to exist? I mean, sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, really, what does that prove?
Why do you believe?
Right.
Okay, I wasn't done talking. Why would you believe that it's impossible for Yahweh to exist if Yahweh has the knowledge of good and evil?
Because the knowledge of good and evil is not good enough criteria to believe that a God exists. Like, just because it could be possible that a God could have knowledge of good and evil, that doesn't mean I should believe in Yahweh. In the same way, it doesn't mean I should believe in Cthulhu or Vishnu or any other kind of God, right?
Okay, but wait.
I mean, presuming are you a Christian?
Yeah, I'm a Christian.
Okay. Presuming that you accept your Bible, I mean, the Bible in the first chapter says that the tree would give them the knowledge of good and evil. So that didn't make...
That's the third chapter.
What now?
I'm just saying it doesn't matter, but it's the third chapter.
Okay, but you're talking about good and evil as if it's some great, all-encompassing thing. Just knowing what is right and wrong is one thing. But what we're talking about, the Christian God goes far beyond it knowing good and evil. Great, let's pretend it does. But also, this Yahweh that you're talking about, did a lot of evil things and also created a world that we see a lot of evil in that can only be brought back to this Yahweh character. So if Yahweh's good, then he can't do evil. It's like something I told my son once. You can be a villain and you can have all type of diversity of behavior and be fine. But if you're good, you've narrowed down. So if God's going to be a good guy, he really hasn't demonstrated it in the Bible, has he? I mean, he's done some pretty evil things.
What is the definition? What is the definition of good?
Well, if we're going to get down to the definition of good, let's take something simple. I guess we could all agree that drowning all the babies and all the people on the planet is probably not a good thing. Your God did that, supposedly. Now, I don't believe it happened, but can we say that killing babies is bad? As a whole, that tends to be a rather consistent rule, isn't it?
To be desired or approved of. That's what the definition of good is.
Okay, well, if you define good, so it's
divine command theory.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, and if that's the case, then yeah, your God can be whatever he wants to be, but it really boils down to something that I've adopted in recent year or so indirectly through Kelly. Hang on a second. Hang on a second. And that is the fact that there is no valid definition of God, which is why I know Dan's an atheist and I am as well, because I've come to that realization that, and here you are bouncing around trying to redefine good. So yeah, if we start redefining good as whatever God says, then yeah, your God's good. And to me, he's an asshole. But we can ignore that and overlook that and pretend, yes, okay, your God's good and you say it exists, but it's just not very compelling to anyone else, is it?
Yeah.
We've already established that Yahweh has knowledge of good and evil.
Okay, we haven't established anything.
Yeah, we haven't established anything. We have to have, first of all, we have to know that a God exists before we can say he knows anything,
hold on,
right?
Do you believe that God...
But Halloween, do you agree that we have to,
exists?
Halloween, do you agree that we have to establish that a God even exists before we can say that he knows something, right?
Okay, so let's completely ignore that part then, because that's irrelevant.
No, it's not irrelevant. What are you talking about? I can't say, I think I know Jamie knows something if I don't even believe Jamie exists. That doesn't make any sense, right? We have to know that something exists for something to have knowledge.
Does evil exist, yes or no?
Okay, I need you to answer me now, okay? Do we have to know that something exists before we can say that something that exists can know something, yes or no?
Then answer my question.
No, actually, you can answer my question. This is my show, not yours. Would you like to talk to us? Please follow our rules.
My question is leading up to yours.
I don't care. You have to answer my question, man. It doesn't matter.
Leading up to We're getting to your question. We're not gonna throw your question out of the picture. We're getting to that. But I'm asking a question that's leading up to your
That's awesome. I'm asking you a question. Do we have to establish that something exists first before we can say that something that exists can know something?
Okay, so we don't know, or you don't know whether God exists.
It's really awesome that you keep ignoring me. And what's really cool is that I'm going to keep ignoring you because you are on, again, my show. So you can listen to what I have to say, or we can go ahead and drop you. It's your choice.
All right, ask your question again. I'm listening to what you're saying.
Great. Let me ask it for the 5th time, I think now. We have to know that something exists before we can say that the thing that exists knows something, right? That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it doesn't matter, right? This whole thing about knowing good or evil doesn't matter, right? We have to establish God exists first. You can say all day that God knows what's good and evil. Doesn't matter. We have to know that a God exists first. Otherwise, whatever you can say whatever you want about good and evil, right? So let's get to that first. How do we know that a God exists?
We don't. Or we can't prove that.
Oh. That's it.
Or I can't prove that.
And I agree. And that's why we're here. That's why we don't believe in God. Why should we believe in something that we can't really prove?
Okay. Do you believe that evil exists, yes or no?
I think that people have ideas of evil, right?
Define evil.
Evil's a very culturally constructed phenomenon. Different people have different ideas of what evil means. So
not to get too Jordan Peterson on you, but yeah.
Well, it's just not consistent over time, right? What people think is evil has changed. So I don't think there's one universal definition of evil.
Do you believe that evil, whether it's killing millions of people or robbing a bank, is evil? Would you consider it evil?
I think I think killing people, millions of people especially, is a bad thing. If you do it on purpose, yeah, I think that's a bad thing.
What about armed robbery?
What about on what?
Robbery?
Armed robbery? Yeah, I think in general that's a bad thing.
Again, but
would you put armed robbery on the same spectrum or on the same level as killing millions of people?
No, I wouldn't.
No, I'm not a moral absolutist.
Okay, but you agree that evil exists.
No, because I don't like using the word evil because evil is unilateral. I'm moral relativist.
Yeah.
There are harmful actions. There are helpful actions. I am all about human flourishing as a humanist. But if you say armed robbery is evil, I could probably come up with a scenario where it actually does a little more good than harm. For one, I don't give a crap about banks. They've got multi-billions and they're all insured. If the armed robbers do no actual harm to the people inside, and the reason why they're robbing a bank is to pay for cancer treatment for children, then overall, that armed robbery, not really that bad of a thing.
Yeah, so again, even by Jamie's own proclamations there, right? We all have different ideas about what's right and wrong. There's not going to be an objective set of right and wrong. There's some atheists that think that. I'm not one of them, because I just think it's just going to be different over periods of time. People think some actions are worse than others. That's just how it is.
One quick question I had for you is, when you say evil, are you talking about evil in some external sense outside of action? I mean, because you say when evil exists, I mean, evil is a product. What we define as evil is usually be more of a product of an action or inaction, not something that just it seems like a malformed question. So what you talk about when you say evil, what exactly are you trying to ask?
Do you believe that the God of the Bible is evil?
I believe
think
the God
you
of the
should
Bible
answer
doesn't
Infidel's.
exist, but
I think you should answer Infidel 64's question before you answer your own questions, please.
Are we getting back to the question of whether God exists?
No, well, what I'm doing now is I'm stuck on you're asking about evil and whether evil exists. Well, I think right now I'm not certain what you're saying when you talk about evil. Are you talking about evil as an entity that exists inside the world, or evil as in an observation of what we use to describe a certain action or inaction? Because I can say it's evil when Dan puts certain toppings on a pizza. Now, but does that make it evil? No, of course not. So evil's a very vague term we're flinging around. And if we're going to talk about something specific, I think I like to have at least a better idea of what you're saying when you're talking about, do you believe in evil? Do you think this is more evil than that? Well, what do we mean? Or are we playing a game where we're just shuffling under some little pods and pick a hand? Playing a Monte game? I mean, because evil keeps changing what you're saying, because evil is not one uniform thing in my eyes, but I'm asking for you.
And one of you said that the God of the Bible is impossible.
Oh, yeah, I would agree with that.
You've already...
Hey, I'm not interested in having a conversation with you if you're not going to answer people. This is your last chance. Are you willing to listen to what we have to say and answer our questions? Are you going to completely ignore them and ask your own questions?
I'll listen. My fault.
Okay. Now, evil. You have a specific idea about evil, right? You're trying to ask us about evil. What's your idea of evil? That's all Infidel 64 is asking. What do you mean when you talk about evil?
How do I put evil into...
You're the one asking questions about it. So
if
what
you
do
can't define
you
it,
tell
how do
me
you
what your
expect us to
word
be able
you're
to make a
using
decision
means?
on it?
Yeah, it's on you, man. You tell us.
We're both asking questions.
Evil's not a word I throw around very often in day-to-day conversations. So to me, defining evil would be rather vague and non-specific and wouldn't tell me a damn thing about what you think of evil.
Right.
So what is it?
The opposite of something that is to be desired or approved of.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay. And you would say human desires?
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
What other desires would there be?
Well, there's other life on Earth that has desires, right? Human beings aren't the only things that have desires. Also, if you believe in a God, they might have desires. There's some Christians that say that
animals capable of doing good and evil.
Well, that's a separate question, right? But like I'm just pointing out the fact that, Christians often say,
what's the point of mentioning animals?
Because there are some people that take the consideration of animal interests into morality, right? Presumably, if you have a dog or a cat, right, and you just kick them and just abuse them, right, a lot of people would say, hey, that's an evil thing to do, right? So animal interests do matter for some kinds of moral calculus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to end this conversation. I'm getting. Yeah. I'm sorry.
All right. Fine.
Nah, it's not. Yeah.
Yeah. What I would suggest is that you focus on your listening skills, okay? Because when you're talking, you're not really listening to other people. And we're all here for you, okay? We have a call-in show where we talk to all kinds of people and are willing to entertain all kinds of topics and all kinds of conversations. We don't like it when we put a very thoughtful response to your questions, and then you just respond with a completely separate line of questioning, right? Because then it just completely invalidates us. It doesn't tell us that you're actually listening. So if you're interested in calling us back again, I advise you to please try to have a conversation with us. If you come in here with just an agenda to try to prove us wrong, it's not going to go your way.
It does feel like you're trying to set us up for some kind of gotcha.
Yeah.
Yep.
But anyway, with that being said, I think we should do another spooky story, right? Infidel, you got a spooky story?
Well, I have a spooky story.
Okay.
And it's not one about triangles or evil.
Okay.
Well, maybe a little bit about evil.
All right. Let's hear it.
I feel kind of like we have a little bit of a theme. We talked about this poor innocent nun who drove the kids on the bus, but mine's a little bit different.
Okay. All right. I'm listening.
Well, there was this, in Ridge Hollow, there was this nun who everyone talked about, Sister Mary. She often would go around, and she always seemed a little odd towards people in the city. And they always talked about staying away and never showing up to the St. Agnes Church at night, because if they did, Sister Mary would get them. But, of course, teenagers being teenagers, one day, Halloween, a few of the kids get brave and are like, it's all just for kids. It's not real. It's nothing no one should really believe in. So let's go up to the St. Agnes Church and let's see what's going on. Because people had always said something about a relic being hidden that was very powerful and very dangerous. So the kids made their way up to the church, and they were a little bit scared, but one of them reached up bravely and opened the door. And when they did, they immediately were assaulted with the smell of incense and something rotting, or like death, something just not right. So they made their way into the church, and the candle lights lighting the way as they're gliding through the pews. And all of a sudden they hear, "Who dares enter my sanctuary?" And they look around, and immediately they see Sister Mary, but she doesn't look like she normally looks like. Her face is very pale. Her eyes are glowing with evil. And she's like, "You're here for the relic, aren't you?" And the kids are terrified. So they just run away towards the door to get away. And bam, the doors lock up, and they cannot get away. And as the wind circles around them, they start hearing voices, and they start seeing things in the shadows, and the candle lights go out. And slowly, one by one, as they're screaming, they start disappearing into the darkness where you can't see each other. And Sister Mary's like, "You have disturbed what should not have been disturbed." And then as the wrestling settled down and daylight came, the doors of the church opened, and the teenagers were gone. In fact, never heard of again. But even now, if you approach the St. Agnes Church at night, you can hear the voices warning you to don't come to the church and bother St. Mary at night.
Wow.
And you know what?
Yeah?
It's pretty scary, because I tried myself, and I chickened out even though I'm a nun.
I could see that. Can I get that flashlight?
No, you may not.
It's very spooky. It's a very spooky story.
I'm terrified beyond the capacity for rational thought.
That's right. I don't even know what to say about something so spooky.
Well, I had to come up with something quick because, I had that Egyptian triangle story.
The Egyptian triangle story
that got ruined by the first caller.
Steve really took one from you.
Steve fucked me up.
I think I was trying to receive, and I think you were distracted because we were getting telepathic messages from the crew. We are actually beyond satellite communication at this point with the crew. We're going into the metaphysical. And they're giving me messages in my genetic code, actually.
Oh.
And I think they're trying to tell me that we have a crew cam that's ready for us to show them as well. So if we could do a crew cam and show, oh, there they are.
Oh, wow.
Beaming it to us through satellite communication. The video's going through satellite. Their messages are through, paranormal means, I think. And also, I think we have some super chats as well that we should probably get to that we haven't been reading so far on the show. The first one is from David Haxer, a member of 2 months, gave $5 Canadian and said, "Tooth Fairy distracts from questions about God." That's an interesting idea. I don't know. I like this idea that there's some sort of grand conspiracy about trying to keep questions about God a secret, and the Tooth Fairy is a part of that.
Mommy, Daddy, why do people die? How about a pound for when you lose your tooth? Oh, yeah. I have forgotten all of my questions now.
Yeah, I don't know about that one, but it's an interesting idea. Appreciate it, David Haxer. Another $5 donation. This one, American dollars, the good kind of dollars. Some kind of Dickie, $5, and said, "We want some more Dan, Infidel, and Jamie." Yeah. So
I don't know about that, Scott. It's because I'm British. I'm completely failing to toast this marshmallow because we're not trained from childhood to make s'mores like you fine Americans are.
No, they don't have good food.
They don't have fire in England.
They don't have fire. They haven't gotten that far
5th
yet.
November, bonfire night. Lies. All conspiracy theory.
Oh man,
I got to say that I don't trust Scott because he told me Austin didn't exist here anymore.
Oh yeah,
yes, he did. So I've got a problem with Scott.
Yeah,
I've got to talk that out.
I mean, there's something to be said about conspiracies about locations not existing. They're probably some of my favorite. And we have, by the way, we have open lines right now as well. If you'd like to call in and talk to us, you definitely can. We have another super chat I want to read from David Haxer again. He gave another $5 Canadian and said, "Question about Jamie's uphill in neutral by the tracks story. Can we hook up a generator to this phenomenon and generate free power?"
There is actually another location that has a similar phenomena in Scotland where my family resides. It's called the Electric Bray. So maybe there's something to that. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, that's very spooky indeed. I think if we could do some free energy from ghosts.
If we're already dealing with the supernatural, let's go ahead and just start snapping the laws of physics over our knee like a twig.
That is it. So, do ghosts have their own supply of energy? Do they follow the laws of physics in that way? Because if ghosts have infinite energy, they don't need food and stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Could they just turn a windmill over and over again?
Yeah. We just trap a poltergeist in a windmill and just have it just make energy.
We could have we've talked about nuclear energy. Have we talked about ghost-powered energy? Power.
I mean, cautionary tales. Most times you try and harness ghosts or demons or the other world, it doesn't tend to end well.
Well,
but wouldn't there be an ethics issue too? I mean, really, can we go around just enslaving ghosts for our own uses?
Well,
I can't wait.
That seems kind of rude. It seems very human.
Do we care about the interests of ghosts if they're not American ghosts, Infidel?
Since you put it that way, we'll pay them with Canadian dollars.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. And my future presidential platform, I think, will be run on ghost energy, is what I'm looking for. I think we have some optional content that we might react to here while we have some open lines, maybe. If the crew wants to put a screenshot on stage, I was going to say on stage, but we're out in the middle of the woods here. There's no stage or any TV screens.
Mentally projecting to our brain.
Yeah, just mental projection that we're working with here. So, I mean, crew, if you want to, whenever you're ready, if you can put something on there. Oh, there's a awful. Crew always gets the most awful screenshots of me, but I think that's just what my face looks like. The comment on this one says, "Wait until they find out that the Big Bang Theory was developed by Georges Lemaitre, a Catholic priest." Okay, yeah, that's true, right? I think a lot of us know that already. Okay, a Catholic priest came up with the Big Bang Theory. That's great. That's awesome. I don't know.
The thing is, true scientists can also be people of faith because they keep those things separate. Like, there's plenty of Catholic scientists, there's plenty of Protestant and Muslim, and I mean, look at the Muslim Golden Age. They discovered so much stuff, and they were, in a caliphate. But they kept the rational and the spiritual separate. And that's kind of all we really want as an organization.
Well, that's the thing. He didn't come up with the Big Bang Theory by reading the Bible part, right? Like, that wasn't what was done there. It was through science. Yeah. So it didn't really matter what his beliefs was. He could be a Muslim or a Jewish person or a Christian, and you could still come to the same conclusion, because it's like how science works. So
I'm pretty sure that it wasn't Genesis chapter 1.5.
Chapter 1.5. You're thinking of Neon Genesis Evangelion.
I think that's probably more useful expenditure of time than
I would
reading
say
Genesis
so.
Again. So
I would say so personally, but I'm biased.
Shinji.
I'm pretty sure I make a Neon Genesis Evangelion reference on Truth One at least once a month.
It's kind of become. And why wouldn't you? That thing's so packed full of Christian imagery. It's nuts.
It would be great if copyright laws on YouTube didn't matter. I would just do an entire just Truth One show where we just watch it together.
Watch it and go, oh, that's a Christian thing, and that's a Christian thing. Oh, they've named the computer.
It's awesome. It's so cool. Everybody needs to watch that show. Anyway, maybe we got another optional content we can look at here, since we do have some open lines. So crew, maybe got that. Another beautiful shot of me on the screen there. It says, comment that says, show us where there has been we got the different one. They're highlighting a different thing for me here. Let me see, because I can't actually see any screens right now. I'm out in the middle of the woods. So this comment, I think, says, 100% wrong on what that message means. The moral of the story is God provides, have faith, do not worry about the small things. Nice try. Dan was talking about the Sermon on the Mount when Jesus told people not to worry about their needs. God provides for birds. In Matthew 6:25, therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you wear. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothes? Yeah, so that is the Christian interpretation of that message, right? That God will provide for you for the small things, but it's just not true, I guess.
Also, clothing and food, not that small things, kind of necessary for survival.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. People who have faith demonstrably have not been provided for. It just happens. On
a more serious note, I know that one time Ray and I watched the first 48 episode where these people prayed for food. And it ended up not being a murder on the show because, they sat there and literally starved to death in their apartment. So please, by all means, people, don't pray and wait for it to happen. That's probably some of the most terrible advice that anyone could ever give. But then again, if we start with the Sermon on the Mount, the meek shall inherit the earth. There's one thing we know about Jesus. That was not a meek guy.
No, and that's another thing too, because again, we think this is all okay in the context of a Christian God, but if somebody from a small religious cult was okay, just listen to our God, he will provide for you, everyone is immediately going to be rejecting of that, but for some reason Christianity gets a pass, which I don't really understand or think is right.
There's so many tangents on divine providence and how it just doesn't seem to work that I could go on. The amount of children that have passed away while parents have prayers on their lips, the amount of depredation of people in Catholic countries that have basically nothing. I mean, how many tragedies do you need to disavow you of this notion that God gives a shit?
Yeah. It's not great. I think we should respond to maybe at least one more of these here. And I realized I read my a note that was given to me to give context out loud that was not part of the comment. I think you guys can tell on the screen that you're watching here, which I can't tell because again, we're out in the woods with no other electronic equipment whatsoever. But we'll get to at least one more here, maybe do some more, and then maybe we'll tell a story or get to some calls here. But let's get this next one on the screen. Yeah, there's another, again, great picture of me. The comment says, slavery is already forbidden based on the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not steal. Interesting choice of commandment there. Jesus didn't need to say it again. Additionally, he has been pointed out, not everything he said or did was recorded. I don't.
Jesus said that slavery should stop. Source, trust me. Bro.
Well, no, yeah, he's saying we don't have. Jesus didn't have to say it again because the commandment, like, don't steal. It says that we don't have to.
So why give instructions for something you're not supposed to do?
Yeah, but also like.
Now, don't steal this car. But if you're gonna do it, what you want to do is you want to take out this little thing, then you want to put a screwdriver in there, and it's like.
But also.
But he said put the seatbelt on.
Yeah, the Israelites had slaves. Yeah. Like they did. And there was never any objection to actually owning the slaves. There were rules about how you should keep the slave, but it never said don't have a slave. That's the problem. There's a reason why America was so great at owning people, okay? There's a reason why they were kind of a leader in that for a long time.
We didn't steal them. We bought them fair and square.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, Christians were totally cool with it. Many of them were. There were some that weren't, for sure, but, like, there's a reason why it happened. Like, it's not like we became more Christian as time went on, right? Like, there were definitely Christians that said, yeah, absolutely, because, I mean, owning slaves was a thing. It wasn't necessarily against being a Christian, at least according to the Christians of the time. So there you go. Okay, on that note, it always comes down to slavery. I think I'll tell my spooky story real quick, and I think maybe we'll have a call ready after that. I'll tell my tale here. You guys ready for this one? I got something for you. I think he's gonna scare the pants off of you guys. I really do.
I'm wearing 2 pairs. I mean, I've got to get them off somehow.
Get this loud on my face.
That sounds like a challenge, Jamie.
Let's see. I want to talk about what happened a couple thousand years ago, deep in the heart of the Middle East. There was a man who claimed to have mystical powers beyond what was known by the average person. And this man walked around performing these powers to others. And in time, he grew a following of those who grew so close to him, it was said that he was even worshipped amongst his followers. These were beyond what was natural. He was able to turn objects into other kinds of objects. He could multiply objects using what he called the power of the divine. But then one day, the government at the time didn't like that he was going around gaining this following and brutally, savagely murdered him upon what was commonly done at the time, a crucifixion. And in this crucifixion, he is said to have died and been laid to rest somewhere in a cave, in a tomb even. Depending on who you ask, it's a little complicated. But 3 days later after this crucifixion, it is said that this man rose again from the dead, and those who perform a water ritual through the art of a baptism, they can summon his ghost into others for him to possess you and to take over your life through his ghost. And they say that those followers still exist to this very day, baptizing the others into their religion, including the children. And it goes on until the end of days, where he was said to have come back and raised everyone from the dead into his own twisted paradise. And that's the end of my story, folks. What do you think?
Well, the only reason why I'm not running for the hills in terror is because I know exactly what to do with something like that. What we need to do is find the Lich's phylactery and destroy it and break the curse.
Yeah, I think so. We can.
I gotta say,
do that.
I was thinking I'd be interested in playing this game.
Oh yeah.
Then when you mentioned 3-day respawn, I'm like, God damn, what kind of ISP did he have?
That's his ping was crazy high. It was not good.
666 is far worse than that. So
yeah.
I don't even know. Maybe 666 to the 37th power.
Yeah, it wasn't good. It wasn't good.
No, I'm opting out.
They didn't have very good internet connection.
Clearly.
Back then.
On that abacus.
I've heard. But anyway, hopefully you enjoyed that, Taylor. I'm enjoying our time out here, folks, in this little spooky hideaway out here in the backwoods of Austin, Texas, with no air conditioning or modern electricity in sight.
Right.
Just
I thought I might
man
have
in
seen a
nature.
rattlesnake.
Yeah?
I don't know. That it might just be a sausage. I don't know.
It could be. It could be. But we have some other folks who want to talk to us on the phone. You guys ready to talk to some more people? All right, let's do it. We got Marcus. Marcus, who wants to talk to us from Texas. Marcus, welcome to Truth Wanted. What's going on?
First of all, I'm sorry. I wasn't expecting you to take the call this quick because I really needed to change my shorts after that story you just told.
Listen, Marcus, I get it. It's a very spooky tale, but you know, I don't know what can I say. It's something you got to watch out for. You know, you never know when these followers come to get you. But anyway,
They might even come to your door.
All right.
yeah, it's a PSA if anything, I would say. But go ahead, Marcus.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to try to compose myself here and ask a little bit lighter question than that was. So I'm just kind of curious in the spirit of the season here. I wanted to find out if any of the hosts, or even maybe all of the hosts, have had some sort of an experience that might be somehow characterized as supernatural or something you couldn't explain, and maybe like to hear about what they were.
Okay, yeah, good prompt. Infidel, I'll start with you. You got one?
You know, unfortunately, I think that all of my stories that are unexplained probably start with taking an illegal substance. So, you know, that probably throws them right out of the window, right off the top. So, no, it seems the ghosts have been avoiding me, and honestly, I can't blame them. I'd probably avoid me too if I was a ghost.
Yeah, I could see why you would say that for sure. So nothing, no supernatural experiences at all.
Well, I guess I probably had a few of what I would define as supernatural, but there would have been woo moments at church. But beyond that, nope, nothing.
Okay, all right. What about you, Jamie?
So here's the weird thing, and it's in kind of a boring thing as well. I've experienced plenty of unexplained things I can't quite put my finger on. But my senses are compromised. I mean, the blind thing is not a joke. I also have things like tinnitus and stuff. So hearing weird noises, seeing weird things, having weird sensations, these are all actually relatively mundane occurrences to me. So the things that some people breathlessly tell me they've experienced as evidence of the supernatural is I see weird shit every day, like floating apparitions in the corner of my eye, weird lights that come and go. It's like, well, yeah, welcome to myopia, welcome to vitreous detachment. And I have actually intentionally been to what were purportedly supernatural events. I think I've told this story on the show before. I've been to a spirit healing. I had a spirit surgeon operate on my eyes to try and heal me of my malady. He purported to be able to invoke the spirit of a 19th century genius surgeon into his body and use no physical tools, only the spiritual to cure whatever ails me. And whatever he did didn't work. And some people would then say, well, that's because you're spiritually dumb. You are insensitive to the supernatural and therefore it won't affect you. You must be a believer for it to actually have any kind of consequence on your life. And I'm like, all right, I was born in the morning, but not this morning. You're going to have to give me more than that.
That'd be crazy if, imagine you're trying to go in for surgery, but if you don't believe in the surgery, it's not going to work. Right? That's what they're saying, I guess.
I went into the dentist for a root canal, but I don't believe that dentistry's real, so I came up with 8 extra teeth.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, spiritual surgeon, folks, we haven't talked about that enough on this show, but they're exactly as you say. They're just like people who say that they're surgeons and then don't actually do anything to you. Oh man. For me, I had this thing happen when I was a kid that I always thought was really weird, but as an adult, I just now understand. My grandmother, everybody has at least 2 grandmothers, right? I had my grandmother on my father's side died when I was like 1. I didn't really know her at all. But when I was a kid, I thought that I had a dream where I spent time with my grandmother in heaven, okay? And she was like showing me things. And I woke up from this dream and I was so convinced that it was like this grandmother that I just had never really known. And like when I was a kid, I like had kind of cited that as like one of those personal reasons you kind of believe in God that you don't like really tell people, you know? But like it's just like one of those things. And now as an adult, I just realized like, oh, I just like I had a dream about somebody in heaven and I just like assumed that was my grandma. Like I didn't know what she was like at all. So how could I have known that it was like my grandma in the first place? It's just like my dream telling me that. It's not really anything. But yeah, that's like the probably weirdest thing that's ever happened to me. And I've definitely had like moments where you think you see something happen in real life that you think you had in a dream. You ever had like an experience like that? I feel like I've
had vivid dreams. But there's one thing I have observed is that if you start telling these stories or you start hearing people tell these stories in a group of believers, boy oh boy, does confirmation bias just run rampant through those conversations.
Right.
Anyway, we've rambled a bit.
No, I think we've told our lot here. Marcus, did you have any follow-up questions or alternatively a supernatural story of your own?
Well, I kind of do. I mean, I'm a little hesitant to tell it because I'm still a little weirded out about it myself, but I guess I'll try to do what I can here. It involves when I recently bought a house, and it was one of those things where we went out and we looked at the house. It was a beautiful home, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, very nice landscaping and everything, and it was for a unreasonably low price. The realtor was not very forthcoming with why the price was so low. And we kept asking her, well, something's got to be wrong with this house. And she kept saying, no, they're just eager to sell. But even at the price, I was determining that there was something I'm not being told. So we kind of pressed the realtor a little bit more. And finally she told us, well, I can't confirm it, but what I was told by some of the neighbors is that before the previous residents left the home, they had their mother-in-law living with them. She was a little bit kind of not all there, I guess you might say.
Okay.
And she had visions of demons and things that were trying to drag her down to hell. And it kind of got around that this woman was feeling this way. And so the neighborhood all kind of contributed, I guess, to this feeling. So when they first tried to sell the home, some of the neighbors were coming up and telling them, you don't want to buy this house. Here's what happened, and this crazy lady was here. So, but being an atheist, I was fine with it. So we went ahead, we bought the house, we moved in, and everything was great for the first few weeks. And then I started having these really weird dreams. I don't know if they were predicated by knowing about this, but I was seeing what I thought was this person in my dreams. And they said, I'm in hell now, and I want you to come with me. So they started dragging me down. And
damn,
one of the nights I woke up, and it was kind of one of those super vivid dreams where you wake up and you're wondering, was it a dream? Am I still asleep or something like that? And all of a sudden I felt something pulling on my leg. I was getting really scared, but this thing, I think, was just pulling my leg, kind of how I'm...
I swear to fucking God. Right. Fuck you, Marcus. Fuck you.
Oh, my God.
Ah, God damn. I'm hanging up on your ass right now. Hold on, I'm dropping you. Get out of here. Get the fuck out of here. That was... Damn. I mean, I knew. I had the feeling that it was going somewhere that we didn't want to follow, but, you know, I was trying to be nice and just let it happen, and, you know.
The thing is, anytime anyone tells a story of like, oh, that she was seeing demons, she was I start getting sad because like, oh, that's undiagnosed or ignored mental illness or dementia or something. That sucks. I've had family members who've gone through things like psychosis, and if you were of a superstitious bent, you might think they were demon possessed, but No, they're just sick, and it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, well, thankfully, Marcus is just pulling our leg.
Yeah, but like,
not a real.
not to bring the mood down or anything. On this lovely night.
On this lovely evening. No, that was a good one, Marcus. You got a good one on us here, and I think that's a good way to sort of wrap up tonight, huh? You know, unless you guys get anything else. You want to add any other spooky stories up your sleeves?
Well, we're running low on marshmallows, and that's the primary reason I came.
Yeah,
so
I've had this
going to be a problem.
I've had the same marshmallow on this stick for almost an hour and a half now, so I don't know how good this thing actually is. Keep going? It's still not warm enough, you're saying. I got to keep going over this fire? All right, I'll do my best with that. Well, if nobody else has anything you want to add here, I just want to say thanks again to everybody that has been watching tonight's Halloween special. Really early this year because Halloween is on a Thursday next week, so we had to get it done as soon as we could. So I appreciate everybody who watched this year. I want to give a special thanks to Jamie for being here with me, and Infidel64.
Thanks for having me.
For joining me on this fantastic, wonderful night. If you like either of them, you can definitely see them on this show or the other ACA shows that we got going on with the network here. The prompt this week, just so you guys don't forget, is what is it that makes aliens want to leave the Earth immediately? So give your comment below, and we will probably read it on next week's episode of Truth Wanted. We'll pick the top 3 answers to that. And it's getting dark out here.
Do any of you guys know how to actually get back to Austin?
I don't even know where we are right now. We just got dropped out of that helicopter. So
I left a trail of marshmallows, so we should be good.
Oh, outside of that, you dropped them from the helicopter?
As we're flying, I was just tossing them.
Wow, okay.
It was a little windy, so maybe it wasn't such a great plan.
Yeah, we were up a couple hundred feet, so I don't know how accurate that's going to be.
Well, I'm going to distract now and say, do you believe in evil?
Oh, okay. Well, that's...
Yeah, see.
That really disrupted my train of thought. Now I have no other questions for you. But thank you to everybody for joining us on this spooky episode of Truth Wanted. I have been your host, Spookjectively Dan. Remember to always keep wanting the truth, no matter what it takes. And I'll see you next time. Woo-hoo!
Watch the non-profits and join the hosts in the live chat. Visit tiny.cc/ytnp.